Hello and welcome to another slightly different video. I keep saying that, but maybe they always are. This was maybe slightly less unexpected than others. I suppose if you've been paying attention to my YouTube channel lately, and there's literally no reason why you should, I've been playing a bit more guitar than I have been in the past. I've been playing guitar for quite a long time now. I've just been doing it more off than on than, say, the violin, which I've been doing almost continuously. But I came back to the guitar recently and just sort of really enjoyed playing it. And because I'm a violinist, I tend to play guitar in a maybe slightly more violin-y sort of way than a lot of guitarists. I'm definitely not a shredder, that's for sure. And I'm also a big fan of Steve Hackett, who has been described as having a sort of violin-y style guitar playing, if you like. So that all makes sense, I suppose. And one of the things that Steve uses quite a lot in his music these days, and certainly a lot when he's playing live, is the Fernandes Sustainer. Now he has a Fernandes Sustainer ready built into a Fernandes Les Paul, and I thought, well, that might be quite nice to have a Sustainer on the guitar. I guess you like to play some long notes. So my question was really, as a ambient guitarist, I suppose, is the Sustainer unit a great thing for an ambient guitarist to have? Is it the ambient guitarist's dream attachment, really? And that's really what I'm going to look at here. Now there are two Sustainer kits. There's the 101 and the 401. The 101 seems quite basic and doesn't come with any replacement pickups, and the 401's quite advanced. There's all different features in it, all the features that Steve Hackett uses. And it comes with a new pickup as well, a humbucker pickup. You need that humbucker pickup, which I didn't know at the time, but you do need that. And of course, Stratocasters don't have humbucker pickups on them as a general rule, though you can buy them. So rather than dig into my rather lovely red American Special Edition Stratocaster, I bought a Mexican Stratocaster. I drew the line at getting a Squire one. I thought I'd try and get a fairly decent guitar, because I thought if it's going to have a Sustainer in it, I'm probably going to be playing it a fair bit, so it's going to need to be a decent guitar. There's no point in cutting corners here. So this is the guitar I got. This is brand new Mexican Strat. And I took it to a luthier to have the Sustainer unit put in, because it's very hard to install and it took him a long time. That's partly because he had to get special router bits and they didn't arrive because of Brexit and COVID and whatever. So he had this guitar for quite a while, but eventually he got it installed, and here it is. There's a black humbucker there. That's the Fernandes humbucker that came with the Sustainer unit. That's the original Fender pickup, and that's the Sustainer driver unit, which is what causes the sustain. It's got little rotating magnets in it or something, a bit like an EBow, I suppose. That also behaves as a neck pickup if you really need it. It's not as good as the Fender pickups, but it'll do you. And the things that mark it out as a Sustainer guitar are the two switches here. That one switches the Sustainer on and off, and this one switches the mode, whether it does normal, whether it does harmonics, or whether it does a mix of both. I prefer to have it up, to be honest, on normal mix, but the harmonic one is quite useful, as I'll show you in a moment. When the Sustainer unit is on, that is the only pickup that works. Whatever you do to this makes no difference at all, because the Sustainer unit needs a humbucker. I don't know why, it just does, and that is always behaving as the Sustainer driver. So with the Sustainer unit on, it's always the bridge pickup. On the back we have the usual sort of stuff. Inside there is now a bit more of a cavity, and there's the PP3 battery which drives the Sustainer unit. Inside that new box there is the Sustainer driver card itself, there's some trim pots inside there which you probably ought not touch. And you can see that immediately at the back of there is where the two switches are. Also, you get 3 new knobs. Now I don't know why they came with different knobs. It makes it look a bit Telecaster to me, which is not a good thing in my book, but I know people who like Telecasters. But it's obviously, it makes it look a bit different. There's slightly different functions now. That's a volume, that's a tone, and this one controls the Sustainer driver intensity, i.e. how fast it grabs the string and how intense it vibrates it. There's a centre indent on there which is where you would normally leave it. And Ben's done a beautiful job of installing it, so you just can't really tell. It looks like it's shipped like this. It's brilliant. So this is one of the reasons you should get a proper luthier to do these things for you. So, what's it like to play? I think my initial answer is not what I expected. When you think of the Sustainer, when I thought of it, I sort of expected to get 6 E-bows basically. And it's not quite what it does. Yes, you can do the sustain, and you can move strings. So as you can hear there, it's a lot cleaner sound than an E-bow. E-bows are quite raspy, and there's definite E-bow sound, which this doesn't have. It's almost sine wavy actually. It's a lot more pure than a normal guitar pick sound. So, and again, it sounds more like a bit like feedback, which I think is what it's mainly trying to emulate. So it seems to be what you're getting is mainly a feedbacky sort of sound, as you would get if you were stood next to a loud amplifier, really. But you're getting that when I'm listening to it. There's literally no amp in the room at all because my neighbours are in. So you get that, but with a little bit more control, maybe. And of course, unlike an E-bow, you can switch strings. So generally, yeah, if you're playing single notes like this, it's really lovely. But one of the things you do tend to get is a bit of feedback on the lower strings if you're playing notes that resonate on the lower strings. So that's, I can now like playing next to a big amp, you get feedback on it. It does quite susceptible to feedback. Now that may not be what you want. I mean, it's actually quite a nice effect, because particularly with the whammy bar, do these sorts of things, which are always really nice if you're doing ambient stuff. There is definitely a technique to playing it. So if I tend to be playing a tune line as such, I find I tend to have my thumb, based on my thumb there, on the top 3 strings there, just to stop them joining in, really. So you need to learn that sort of technique. And also, sometimes it takes a little bit of stopping. You never know quite when to stop it. It'll stop when you play another note, on the same string, obviously, but you're not quite sure. When if you've got a really long note, either just damp it gently at that end will stop it, or at this end. It's quite hard to stop sometimes, or you're going fretted note there, and you want to stop it. You take it off, it's a little bit there, which can be a little bit unpleasant if that's not what you're after. I did actually end a song with it on my last album, so it's up to you. But it's there. You need to be aware of how you play it. It's an extension to the instrument in quite a lot of ways that you need to get to learn how to control. You can't really do chords with it as such, because with it being a feedbacky sort of device, the chords tend to dissolve into the fundamental usually, or thereabouts. A string there was going with that A chord, which makes it a shame because it'd be quite nice to be able to play it with a slide. I imagine that'd be quite fun. But the other thing that will stop you playing on a slide is because of the sustainer driver, the action does need to be fairly low for it to grab the strings. So you have to be quite good at slide to do that without getting a lot of fret noise, which I'm not. Switching into the harmonic mode, I tend to do as a later thing. So if you've got a chord going, and then switch it in. Find quite nice, because if you do it with that on to start with, the feedback comes in straight away, and sometimes you just want a little bit extra time before the feedback comes in if you're playing sort of more ambient style. The middle switch does you feedback with a bit of a harmonic on it. So even on that A chord, there's a bit homing in on an E. So is it the Ambient Guitarist Dream? I think yes and no. I think it has a lot of really nice things you can do with it. Doesn't turn it into a guitar with just a guitar with infinite sustain, which I think would have been. I think I would have liked more, maybe. So it is really useful, but it's not. You need to be aware of what it will and what it won't do, I think. On the whole, I think I'm glad I got it, and I'm using it quite a lot. And it's also quite nice having a Strat with a humbucker on it, just for a bit of a change as well. So even with that off, perfectly good Strat with a humbucker on it. That's nice. Other downsides of it, I said you can't use the other pickups with the sustainer. Because of the phase, I think you can't use the middle position, so the middle, not the middle's pickup. That's fine. But if you use the between pickups, because these pickups are out of phase with it, they don't work as well. They're quite a dull sound with no bass. So unless you're really into that sort of sound, that's a bit of a downside as well. I mean, if I've still got the special Strat upstairs, that's not a big deal. But if you wanted to use this as your only guitar, that might be a nuisance to you. I don't know if there's a way around that. I don't think there is. I don't quite understand guitar pickup phases. So, other alternatives around. There is the Sustainiac, which I can't find a great deal about, to be honest. Although I couldn't find a great deal about the Fernandes, if I'm honest about that too. Their website seems to be a bit out of date and mentions massive delays in getting hold of them, so I don't know whether that's still true. So I can't really comment on the Sustainiac, though I do hear people have got it and really like it. I don't know whether it does the same things as the Fernandes. There's the Digitech FreqOut pedal, which has the same sort of effect but in a pedal, which is definitely sort of a feedback emulator in a pedal. I've also got one of those in the GT1000, so if I switch the sustainer off on here, I can go switch this on. That's one you need to control with your feet, because even with none of the strings vibrating, it's still going on. That might be what you want. It's an interesting thing to do, and I have used this effect even with violin. fades out. It fades out quite nicely because I've got lots of delay and reverb on this. And again, it doesn't really do chords. In fact, there it's focusing on the low on the mantle. Interestingly. So other pedal options, there's the Electro-Harmonix freeze and Super-Ego pedals. I mean, they're a different thing really, but again, they're foot controlled. They're more a granular freeze than the feedback effects. I find them quite dead, which is slightly annoying. I did have a freeze and a Super-Ego for a while, and you tend to need something in the effects loop just to liven them up a bit. I know the Super-Ego Plus now has a built-in effects loop and some effects built into it, so it's a much better bet. So if you want infinite sustain, there's two other options as well. The GT1000 has a freeze option, which I've never used because it sounds terrible. It's even worse than the Electro-Harmonix freeze pedal. Other options, real feedback. Get a big amp and blast your ears out. That's the traditional way, and it still works, of course. Less of an option if you're playing in a house like this one. I can't even have an amplifier on at this time of day. I'm pleased I got this, even though it's not quite what I thought it was going to be. But it's given me an interesting things to learn. So yeah, that's it. That's the Fernandes Sustainer. Just a short video, show you what it is, what I thought of it. I'm having fun with it, but still learning quite how to control it, I think. Okay, see you later, next video. Bye bye.